Welcome to Comic Book Nation bonus round, where this week we are talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe movie release, which is in theaters today. Just right up front, we're going to let everybody know in this video, we kind of put this in the bonus round and saved it for our Comic Book Nation YouTube page, which you should subscribe to, because we will be talking full spoilers about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and part of our discussion is going to be what we thought of this film, but also how do we look at it as the beginning of Phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So right off the bat, I can tell you my impressions of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I thought, for me, it's kind of a middling Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. It's not like on the level of Eternals or Thor: The Dark World, or Thor: Love and Thunder for me, which are my lower end MCU movies for sure. But it is not too far above those. It is towards the lower half of the spectrum. And I think it's because Quantumania is another, while it might be the opener of Phase 5, it kind of still has that Phase 4 problem of promising me something exciting that it doesn't deliver on. I think the most comparable thing is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which, we weren't the only ones critical of on this show, of saying, like, for a movie that promised us an entire look at a crazy journey through the multiverse and what it could be, this felt kind of simplistic and basic and almost like TV pilot-ish. I think Quantumania has the same thing. The quantum realm has been, now for what, like, how many phases have we been since when was Ant-Man, like the start of Phase 2 or Phase 3? I forget where Ant-Man came, or the end of Phase 2. So since the end of Phase 2, we have been hearing about the quantum realm and like what this fantastical place is all about, and all the things it could do. And I feel like this movie, which is supposed to deliver the most, wild, outrageous version of that, still kind of did the opposite. It kind of reduced it to a more basic thing, which is just like, Disney's Strange World meets Avatar, and kind of took away a lot of mystery and also opened up a lot of head-scratching kind of continuity questions about what the quantum realm is, how it functions, and what kind of role it's playing in this franchise. But I feel like the title Quantumania was not lived up to. It's hard to even call it Ant-Man and the Wasp because I feel like certain characters definitely stand out in this movie. I think that Paul Rudd's Ant-Man, Catherine Newton's Cassie Lang, and Jonathan Majors' Kang the Conqueror, and Michelle Pfeiffer's, Janet Van Dyne are the real major character, the real main characters of this story. While you have like Hank Pym, Hope Van Dyne, Evangeline Lilly, and other people in this movie who are either just like there as supporting people or outright bit players, like William Jackson Harper, his character amongst the kind of quantum realm freedom fighters. And so it was kind of a mixed bag in that way, but like what works for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania really works well. When some of the concepts of the quantum realm are kind of done, the visuals, they're realized really well. There are times where this movie gets kind of scary or even trippy and metaphysical, and those sequences are really cool. Other times it looks like Star Wars basic and not as fun, but Jonathan Majors Kang is a force. Really elevates this movie for me personally and a lot of other people that I've seen reacting to it online. Majors, what he's just done, not just in this movie, but comparing this movie to Loki season 1 finale and this version, Kang the Conqueror versus He Who Remains, is already showcasing just what dynamic things Majors is doing with this role. And, we'll talk about the post-credit scenes, but the post-credit scenes, give you a taste of just how wild this role is going to be for him and how much work he's going to do. And I'm happy to have Kang as our big bad. But this, for me, was just kind of middling of the road. And we'll talk about how it fits into Phase 5 once Janelle can kind of share some of her thoughts.
Yeah. So I feel like Kofi just does such a beautiful job of recapping these things. So I'm not even going to get too much into all of that because he pretty much just freaking nailed it. What I am going to do is kind of tell you that, like, from my perspective, as I feel like more of a casual fan, I deeply enjoyed this film. And I do think that a lot of that comes from experiencing it in IMAX on a huge, huge screen with an audience that was pumped to see it. You can't discredit what that effect has on your experience, right? So, these reviews that I'm seeing of people being really critical of it and not liking it, it has like the lowest rankings ever. I'm so confused. Like, I'm genuinely shocked. And I think it comes from a different type of fan than where I am. I know that I am a very lenient fan. I love everything. I'm excited about everything. I'm optimistic about everything for the most part. And I don't know where else they could have gone with this than what they chose. I totally understand that it's hard to make everything as big as Endgame. Like, it's, this isn't Avengers, and that's the whole thing. Like, you can't go into these films thinking like you're gonna have all these pop-ups of other characters to really take it over the edge. Like, that was a Spider-Man special thing. Like, Ant-Man isn't gonna have Captain America just coming back to life and popping in and making everyone scream. Like, that's not gonna happen. I feel like what I keep telling people is to go in excited about it and open-minded and like to have a good time, but maybe not with the same energy as you would take into like Wakanda Forever. Like, the stakes don't feel as high, which is surprising, and I know it should, but it's got the comedy, it's fantasy, it's all of the things. It doesn't feel as real as war on planet Earth, right? Like, this is a whole different area, and you should just kind of like appreciate it for what that is. If that's not your style, I totally understand. This was up my alley, and I will say that I never knew who Jonathan Majors was. When I saw Jonathan Majors in Loki at the end there, I was kind of like, what? Like, why is everybody freaking out about this actor? Like, why does he have this huge buzz? I don't really get it. Guess what? I get it. After seeing him in this movie, I get it. This guy is so terrifying to me. I was shocked. Like, I know this is like a kind of a peppier film, but seeing his Kang was so scary. When he uses his powers and he gets enraged, I'm genuinely like bracing myself. He scares me, and he seems extremely unhinged. And now I understand why so many people are buzzing about Jonathan Majors and Kang in general. I'm totally pumped to see where this goes, and we'll discuss the end credit scenes too, because there's a lot happening. Yeah.
Ooh, you just said a lot that I do not agree with, but I can only process so much at once.
I know.
I hard disagree. First of all, I invite everybody to kind of, I think I love Jonathan Majors in this film, but I think people should go back and watch some of his other works and really get the larger sense of why they picked him. Go watch Lovecraft Country on HBO Max. Go watch The Harder They Fall on Netflix. And you can see how Jonathan Majors is really good about delivering very complexly layered characters who are angry, scary, sad, sensitive, smart, all this stuff. And you need that for Kang. So yeah, I think I liked Kang more than just the fear and intimidation factor. It is.
Oh yeah, agreed. I agree. No, the whole point was, now I understand. He's like a brilliant actor, and I can tell.
Yeah,
I just don't think we got enough of it in Loki because we got one episode.
Well, I think yes, and I said, I said, I think you have to link his performances together and really look at the whole thing.
Absolutely.
But I think that what this movie kind of criminally does, and then you're kind of saying like go in and it's not like an Endgame, but it's funny to pick that thing because Endgame made the quantum realm 10 times more interesting.
Yeah.
When Scott Lang escapes from there and they figure out how to use it as a highway through time and do all this stuff. I think what this movie does, and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness does, is they take these concepts that were so interesting that we've been writing theories on and people have been speculating about, and that other projects introduce these larger ideas about, and then they would just reduce them into some simple thing that we can just get through a movie that feels like a TV episode with. And
Yeah,
so
I
I
agree
think
with you on
what
that.
I think this movie sacrificed a lot of what we loved about the quantum realm and what its potential was for things that are going to be endlessly debated as possible plot holes and stuff like that. Like, how did Scott get in and out of the quantum realm several times without anybody noticing if they're so on top of the comings and goings and looking for any way out of here? How is it the Avengers are able to travel through this realm through times, but somebody like Kang can't figure that out from inside the thing? That makes no damn sense. There's a whole thing that the most interesting themes of the story are never explored. You know, what secrets in families do that never really has much payoff or consequence. Or the thing that Matt and Nicole Drum and other people really said they were really hooked on this movie about, when I said I didn't even think it was that great, which is the idea of a parent and getting back time you've lost with your child. And that being a hook that could
Oh my
motivate
God, yeah.
Scott Lang into allying with Kang and being lured in by this person, where the actual movie makes it very just arch. It's just
Wasn't
Janet
even a
comes out and
thing.
says, yeah, I have a secret. There's this super duper evil dude I never told you about down here who still wants to kill me. And then Scott's like, I'll never do what you say because I know you're evil and I'm an Avenger. And it's like,
I didn't even think about that, honestly, because that wasn't a
and
hook
like,
for me.
yeah, the real focus of the story that
Yeah.
they tried to make it is Cassie's like half-assed young teenage thing of saying, Dad, you don't do enough for the world. You saved everybody, but what have you done for me since then? I want to be out here and be like, I'm woke and I want to change things, and you're just like a boomer, like you're punching people. And like that's the conflict of this movie, which again isn't even a conflict.
Mhm.
Like, because what happens is when things hit the fan, of course, Scott jumps in and starts kicking butt as Ant-Man to save his daughter. And his daughter was like, oh, you will kick butt and fight. And he's like, yeah. Like, yeah, of course, kid. I've been telling you that the whole time. Which any parent, you know, you got to shout stuff at your kids like 80 times before they get it. But so none of that interesting philosophy, moral quandary, the choice of would you screw the world to create a new world where you got to have this time back? None of that is explored. None of that is part of this movie.
Mm-mm.
Kang's just like, I got to get out of here to, you know, F things up with some people who exiled me out of time and space. Again, using the quantum realm, which raises so many questions. Like, here's a place we could put this guy that we know he can't get out of, but like how? And the post-credit scenes, which we can move into, which reveals the real big bad. And I was disappointed that this Kang, the Conqueror, he gets killed off. And, you know, then we're just like, oh, well, the real threat is the Council of Kangs that are out there. And we see all these kind of wild, different versions of Kang, including Ramatut, this kind of ultra futuristic Kang. I can't tell if it was Mr. Gryphon or whatever that was, but and that there's going to be kind of endless Kangs everywhere coming at us. It was kind of a cop-out in a weird way because the Conqueror, the one that we met in this movie, was so interesting, or could have been, in like his whole relationship with Janet. That whole progression of when they were together and like all the things that are kind of implied there. I guess it got too sexy, so they cut it back because, yeah, it's just a lot of weird things. Like, she slept with Murray's character, but then there's these intimate scenes with her and Kang, but they don't have any deeper relationship. And it's just like, yeah, there's just I think this movie just did a lot more to upset a lot of the stuff I thought was great about the Ant-Man franchise, which is, again, the size relativity stuff. That first Ant-Man movie is still my favorite just for the scenes of Scott the first time he shrinks getting lost in a bathtub and a discotheque and doing all that stuff with relative size. And Ant-Man and the Wasp, the same kind of stuff. This one is just everybody's in the quantum realm. We have like, there's a couple scenes of him shrink fighting and grow fighting, but otherwise it's like the whole Ant-Man Pym particles thing doesn't even really matter anymore. So the character's uniqueness is kind of disappearing. So that was my problem. It's just kind of bland and middling. It like Thor, Love and Thunder, like Doctor Strange. I don't think these are horrible movies, but I don't think they're great either. And I think let's move into kind of phase 5, right? My hope in phase 5 is that Marvel begins to separate their creative process. Because I think in phase 4, and I was talking about this in the office, I think they just sat down and started planning movies and TV shows as if they were just one big thing. Like one big story. But movies and TV shows, I think they found out now, are very different. Very different. And like
Mhm.
what qualifies as a movie and what you could do, like I would have loved Quantumania as a TV series or a limited series. Like a journey episode by episode, keep us guessing, slowly reveal Kang, get even more in depth about like what Janet was doing in flashbacks, you know, what Kang's history is and who these complex characters who made these choices are. That would have been better served than trying to make this big movie. I get budgets and effects and all that stuff, but I think you could have done some practical, smarter Star Warsy things to kind of get around that. I hope in Phase 5 they really go back and reassess how they're planning these things out, because you can't just take content and try to plan it all as one big lump and then cut it into different formats. That doesn't work like that. And I feel like that's been the mistake of Phase 4 that I hope gets corrected in Phase 5. But hey,
this movie
I mean, at least
doesn't make you feel
no,
confident in that. Okay?
no. And I've said that, and I caught a lot of crap for that. But this does not feel like the start of Phase 5. It feels like once again, Ant-Man is the epilogue of the phase that came before. Just like they said, it was the epilogue of Phase 2. After we had Avengers, Age of Ultron, and then we got Ant-Man. And it was like, okay, but that's just the
do you
epilogue.
think?
So
Do you think that they're just putting too much, like, on Ant-Man, like to explore like this? It seems like a lot to put on Ant-Man.
that's
Like,
my thing. And we were talking during the regular show. If you guys go back and listen to this week's Comic Book Nation regular show, which is all about talking about the Flash trailer,
mhm.
we were talking about, you know, and I was saying to you guys, like, I think Marvel has stretched what they can do with some of these solo movie franchises. Like, I think after you get an origin story and then like a follow up to show what things are different since we saw you in the origin story, I think it becomes harder and harder and harder. Like, I think more and more of these should have been like just full fledged event films. They should have said Doctor
Yeah.
Strange is some kind of event film, put a little bit more into it, shove a couple more cameos into it, and just make it an event film.
Mhm.
And like you said, I don't know if this was the story for Ant-Man to
Yeah.
introduce Kang. It is a weird place. Marvel, but you know, Kang has always been a weird villain that's like introduced in one place before they figured out, oh, he'd be much better over here as this person's villain. So I don't know, but yeah, there needs to be a tweak to the formula, because this one was a weird chapter where they were
Yeah.
like, yeah, and it feels like this was just the entire purpose of this movie was nothing more than introducing the next big bad
Kang, yeah.
and really just introducing the rest of the big bads, which are the
Like,
Council of Kangs.
we're never gonna see any of these characters that we liked again, are we? Like, any of these characters that live in the quantum realm, like these Star Warsy, like, I loved the Jelly Dude. Like, am I ever gonna see Jelly Dude again? Like the whole guy?
No, probably
And
not.
that sucks. Like, that kind of
Because
sucks.
yeah, early leaks said the ending of the film was that Hope and Scott got stuck in the quantum realm. That was like what the early leaks said. That
Mm.
Kang doesn't make it out, but only Cassie, Hank, Pym, and Janet make it out, while Scott and Hope got stuck. But of course they do that, but then there's this recut where they get stuck for all of a second
Yeah.
before then they do get out. Then they're like, no, our family opened the portal again, and now we're getting out. Like, I feel like they changed that ending at some point, but
I think
neither
you're
here
right.
nor there.
That would make
Because
sense.
this movie also has one of the most bizarre endings for a Marvel movie ever, which is the hero saying, I saved the day. The whole thing is bookended by Scott's monologue of saying, things have changed since I've been an Avenger, just like you saw in the trailers. Well, the last one is him going back to that same monologue, walking down the street, doing his new routine, going to Dunkin' Donuts or whatever. But he stops and has this like spiral moment. Like, did I really stop him? Have I just unleashed something? Did
he really
the entire
die?
universe? Like, yeah, by
I liked
doing
that.
this. But it's
I
such
liked
a
that
weird ending.
floating, but I liked that whole, like, maybe I didn't kill him. Maybe I did, like, not knowing. And then
Yeah,
when
have
they
I screwed the entire
confirm,
universe?
but when they confirm, like, in the post credits that he did kill him, it just took out that whole thing of me being
Exactly.
curious. Like, did you kill him or not? Like, I wanted to possibly see that Kang again. So that was my one criticism that I was going to get to, but that is the criticism. Like, why would you allude to this and then completely knock it down, like, after all the credits roll? Like, it's just kind of, that part was confusing to me.
I'm wondering about the recuts of this film so much, and I'm reading like all of Phase 4 for the most part, from Eternals to Doctor Strange to Thor. Like, what were the recuts? Because I feel like there was a different sort of movie here.
Do you feel like they're trying to be like, this is what I feel Phase 4 and now this one is, it feels like they really, really want to be optimistic. Like Marvel's like, hey, we're the happy peeps and we're going to keep everything a happy ending and keep things really positive. And it just feels very almost insincere at times and like not relatable, because like in all reality right now, there's a lot of crap going on in the world, and like there's a lot of not happies going on. And sometimes it feels like these Marvel projects in Phase 4 have just been really like happy ending. Let's giggle. Let's put some bright colors up on the screen and like just be happy, happy, happy. Like, where's the Winter Soldier? Like, where's the stuff that's a little darker and dirtier? That's how I'm feeling.
And agreed. And Nicole Drum, our staff member, wrote an excellent piece about how Phase 4 was all about stages of grief. And there was a lot of great insights she had in that, and how each film was a part of the stages of grief, ending with Wakanda Forever being acceptance. And like, Wakanda Forever is like the only one that actually does address these serious feelings and how we don't necessarily, in the complicated way, they resolve. Yeah. And it has its own little happy ending, but it's still a very complicated emotional ending to that. So I want some more complex stuff too, Janelle. I think, and I'm kind of just interested to see if this is the first film where we start to officially hear people say there's a drag on Marvel, or the MCU's losing it, because it's an interesting time with like the Flash coming up and things like that for DC, and this kind of feeling like a little bit of a drag. I'm kind of interested to see what happens, but
it's
that's
crazy because I feel like if people were watching this video from start to finish, just in that time that you and I have kind of gone over this, like even my opinion has shifted from like, I liked it, like it was cool, like to wait a minute, hold on, this is starting to make sense. Like there are criticisms and things, even from like a casual super fan view. And I think that's really interesting, because once people start having the conversations, because when you walk out of the theater, I feel like you're like, yes. And then you start thinking a little harder, like, oh, wow, okay, that point that Kofi made on Comic Book Nation kind of makes sense.
Oh, we didn't even talk. I mean, there's so much in this film. Me and my brother went to see this together.
Yeah.
And when Modoc came out, we both looked at each other and we were just like, God bless the VX teams that tried, and God bless, but that was like the first big character miss for the MCU for me.
The mask was great though. Like when he had the mask on, it was great. But when it flipped up, it was like, what is happening? But you just laugh because it's just...
No, I couldn't get over it. I was just like, wow. Just wow. Marvel's Avengers coming out squeaky clean in this whole thing was not on my bingo card for 2023. But shout out to Marvel's Avengers and the guy who keeps it alive, Matt Aguilar. Hashtag that's my Modoc. All right.
It did look better.
I'm going to stop eating up on it. I think we can cap it there. Obviously, I wasn't as high on Quantumania. I don't want to anger all the Marvel fans. I still love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. TV is just kind of holding it right now for me. And at the very least, the final post-credit scene is a scene from Loki season 2 that brings us back to an even crazier version of Jonathan Majors as Victor Timely, 19th century Tesla-like black inventor who Loki and Mobius are encountering, and Loki knows that this is a much bigger threat they are looking at, even though Mobius doesn't believe it. So at least we got to set up for an awesome Loki season 2.
So awesome.
We're going to get. So,
season 2 Loki, let's go. Yeah. We are so excited.
I want that in my veins now. So at least it ended on a strong note, as the MCU can often do by promising me another Marvel thing that I'll probably like a little bit. So that is our kind of spoiler review of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and our breakdown of how it kicks off Phase 5 in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Be sure to tune in every week for the regular Comic Book Nation show every Friday at noon on your favorite podcasting and live streaming platforms. Thank you. Subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon. Enjoy all your comic book, movie, TV show watching, and comic book reading. Peace.
Bye, guys.